But let us get into what I called on the broadcast, Kenny, one of the biggest singular wins in mixed martial arts history, or combat sports history, you could say. Israel Adesanya over Alex Pereira by knockout at 4:21 of round 2. He becomes a 2-time UFC middleweight champion, one of the hardest things to do in this particular sport. Lose your belt and get it back. And about 5 months after he relinquished the title, Adesanya back on top of the world.
Blown away. I was, my jaw was on the floor like so many others, like millions of others who saw that fight. We talk about this all the time, how another competitor can inspire you, can take you to new levels, and how also a loss can also take you to new levels and can rise you up and make you even more popular than before. I hate making these comparisons because it's so difficult, and we become so nostalgic over the years that people get offended by these comparisons. But I think that if there's a boxing fight that would be somewhat fitting, okay, calm down, boxing fans, would be a George Foreman, Muhammad Ali type scenario where you have this killer who seemingly has this other fighter's number, but in like heroic fashion, you get this other fighter that goes to a different level, that goes to that dark place and finds a way to win, either by his own genius, his skill, or his toughness. And that was a beautiful demonstration by Israel Adesanya on how to do that against a guy who was a terrible matchup for him. He found a way to win. He did it by knockout in dramatic fashion, did it early, took a risk in doing so, and my goodness, hit just a nasty counter. It reminded me a lot of the Whitaker knockout, where he knew that this guy was going to extend himself. He lured him in, he set the trap, and caught him. Just brilliant stuff. I remember I had to do this against Alex Karalexis when I was kind of shelling up, and I threw an elbow instead, sliced his nose, and got the doctor's stoppage. But it was a similar thing where you can look like you're in trouble, you're blocking, shelling up against a cage with nowhere to run. And that's when they're most vulnerable, because every time a fighter punches, they open up their central line. When you punch, that is precisely when you yourself are most vulnerable. And that's what happened with Pereira. And everyone's saying, oh, man, Pereira, he should have had his hands up, blah, blah, blah. Dude, he's got his hands down almost all the time. That's how he fights, not how he punches, So anyways, just an amazing thing there from Adesanya, man.
There are a lot of layers to this fight. We can talk about the psychology for Israel Adesanya and all of the mental toughness that resides within that allowed him to take this fight quickly and maximize it with a performance like this. I do believe his thesis statement, Kenny, say less, do more, ties into what you were saying in terms of risk and willingness to. Cody's telling me right now all 3 judges gave Adesanya round 1. That surprises me. I feel like Pereira kind of got more done in that first 5 minutes, but I guess that's neither here nor there. But I do believe that in terms of Adesanya's mentality going in, Kenny, he was going to be riskier and more willing to take risks in those situations. But I absolutely take him at his word that he was playing possum a little bit up against the fence. And I do think you're right about well, I'll stop there because that elicited a reaction from you. What's your take on Adesanya and his proclamation that he was playing possum up against the fence?
Okay, I have no idea because I'm not Israel Adesanya, but I will say this. I think there's a little bit of nuance that needs to be explained on my part from what I saw. I think what it was a plan B from Adesanya that said, okay, if I get hurt, if my lead leg gets compromised again, I'm going to do this. And I think that's what he did. I think he was eating those calf kicks again, which again, I was really worried about. If I saw him get hit with those early, I said that was going to be a bad sign for Adesanya. I think when that happened, he started backing himself up and he decided, okay, I can't move here. I got to go to my plan B. This is where I go for it. I thought he was outstriking Pereira. I thought he was a little bit more effective in round 1. I don't have a problem with that necessarily. I could see why. I don't think it's a massive debate there, but I think Adesanya won round 1. Round 2 is when Pereira really started battling back and had Adesanya backing up and retreating a little bit. His calf definitely started to take some damage there. He started backing up, and that's where I think he decided to take a risk and play possum, not because before the fight he said, I'm going to do this in this round. I think it was more of a plan B, but he played possum nonetheless and caught him.
And I'm not sure that he would have said that he would have played possum before the fight, but I think instinctually in this moment, he maybe felt like Pereira felt like he had hurt him more to the body than Izzy really was hurt. In terms of the leg strikes, Kenny, I've been on that post-fight set so many times where fighters can barely walk after the fight. And I do regret, because of the nature of our post-fight interview with Israel Adesanya, that we didn't get to ask him about the leg damage nor the extent of it. But I will say, at least in terms of the visual, many people saw him on Instagram dancing deep into the night. He walked up to that post-fight set all the way up there, right? Because you could only take the stairs without an issue, and was walking around like he wasn't all that phased. So who knows how much he might have been compromised given that early damage. Pereira was 26 of 36 on those leg kicks, and both guys realized success in round one, but an incredible win and a career full of them for Israel Adesanya. And I'm not going to necessarily suggest that this erases the memory of the 3-0 start in this series, Kenny, but this series was always more even than the 3-0 record show.
100%. I think that, we do get lost in statistics all the time and numbers and, this guy won, therefore that. No, you got to look at the way that they won. The results don't always tell the whole story. The statistics don't always tell the whole story. You got to look deeper. The matchups, what was going on? What were the swings? What were the critical strikes that changed the fight? And I'll go back to the calf thing. Absolutely. There's no question that he could have been just fine. It could have been just another day of taking calf kicks. But I will say this, when you lose, everything hurts a little bit more, I think. And when you win, those things that were hurting before feel just great. Yeah, I'd be dancing too if I beat Aldo. I'd be fine dancing. But it's true. I think that it was just such a fun fight to watch. I was absolutely fascinated with the matchup, and it delivered, man. It really did.
This sport just keeps topping itself. And Joe Rogan and our little decompression on pay-per-view was almost rendered speechless. Just because he kept saying, I can't wait. I don't know if this was on the air or off. He said he can't wait to just go back and watch it like hundreds and hundreds of times over. And he's just such a mixed martial arts fanatic that he actually will do that very thing. I guess the example I was thinking of when Cody Garbrandt beat Dominic Cruz at UFC 207, I believe it was, late 2016. Could barely fucking walk when he got up to that set, from all Dominic Cruz had gotten done. And I think history suggested maybe that fight even was more one-sided than people want to admit. But congratulations to Israel Adesanya. And I said this on the broadcast. You talk about a waiting to exhale moment. We really had two of them this weekend. Kelvin Gastelum, who nearly retired, had 2 years without a win. For Israel Adesanya, Kenny, mentally, after 3 years, or excuse me, I should say 3 losses and almost 7 years in this series. Just absolutely incredible.